Hi, Andrew.
Hi, good morning. Hi,
Good
Jaden.
morning. How are you?
I'm great. It's bright and early on a Friday morning.
hmm
Feeling strong. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited to have you. So today I'm chatting with Andrew Cover. Andrew is currently in the revival of Gypsy playing at the Majestic Theater. So let's chat about everything Broadway because I am so obsessed with your resume, so obsessed with every show you've done. And I'm really excited to talk about Les Mis because
Okay.
I'm an avid Broadway.com vlog watcher.
Okay. All right. So I understand this is going to be a good chunk of the content. And
This is
now
going
I'm
to be,
around another one because Leslie Margarita's doing
yeah.
one
Uh-huh.
over at the at Gypsy, and she's like, Broadway.com does these vlogs. I'm like, yeah, I know about the vlogs, Leslie. Yes.
Yeah, you're a Broadway.com vlog veteran.
Yeah, yeah. Our dressing rooms are right next to each other. So she's like, I'm making there's like this vlog thing. I'm like, yeah.
You're familiar. So
Uh-huh.
is Leslie though. She had her Matilda one that like
I know.
went like so past the 6 weeks that we usually see.
She's very dedicated, much more than Ramin was.
But the two of them are like those two vlogs are just so hilarious that it's like
So silly.
it is my childhood. Like that is my childhood.
Well, that's good to hear. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I grew up at like the height of like the 2010s Broadway. Like that's
This
I
is my era.
Yes, I went to see The Outsiders the other day and I interviewed somebody in the show, so I went to see them after and I was like, this is so crazy. Your fan base scares me because it reminds me of the Newsies fan. Like that's
Oh
my
yeah.
childhood.
Yeah.
Like it
Here,
reminds me of
what's interesting is there's I feel like there's always a show that's that thing. Like
that.
if when I was young, even before I was on Broadway, like Spring Awakening was kind of the last one that was hot before I kind of showed up. And then Jonathan Groff went from there to Hair with me. And then Hair was like the hot young show that everybody was excited about. And I had never been in the hot show that everyone's excited about. And then I think Newsies was right after that.
Mm-hmm.
And like those fan bases go hard. And
Uh-huh.
like I haven't seen The Outsiders, although I know that I would love it. But I see our theater is right next
Yeah.
to theirs. And so I see those fans and they are very, very excited to be there.
Oh, they are so excited that like it's terrifying for an outsider. Like for
Yeah.
like an outside perspective to see
It's
it.
such a fine line between like enthusiasm and overdoing it.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the outsiders. I don't know anything about what's going on over there. But like, in my experience, 99% of Broadway fans have been like, it's so warm and respectful and excited and joyous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that 1% puts like a bad stink on everything else,
Yeah.
And those shows that are like really, really hot with young folks, that 1% will show up and they will go
Uh-huh.
hard.
Yes. Like, and it's so crazy to see like social media is such a big thing in my life, and especially within the theater industry, and
Yeah.
seeing the videos that fan base are posting and going to see The Outsiders like 3 times a week. I don't understand how anyone could afford that. Like,
Yeah,
I
me
just
neither.
sat outside of the theater yesterday, 2 days ago. I rushed for the first time since high school to see The Outsiders, and I was like, I need like 7 business days to recover. Like I'm like, how do people do this all the time?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so
I remember at Les Mis, there were folks that we would notice in the front row multiple times a week.
yeah.
And we were like, what is your life? Like how I would love to be able to afford to do anything like
Uh-huh.
that. Like that's wild. It's
Yeah.
it's not a cheap ticket.
I think my only show I've ever done that for is Alice by Heart. I saw yeah.
Whoa.
I
Okay,
it
so you're
wasn't
deep in the paint. I just happen to
I
show up in a
saw
lot of your stuff. I'm the
yeah,
Forrest Gump of
no.
your life.
No, you are. It's so crazy because I've seen you in like I saw you in I saw you in Alice by Heart. I saw you in
Yeah.
How to Dance in Ohio too.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
That's
I
very
like
limited edition.
yeah, no, yeah. I
Yeah,
because I saw it in like the last few like
that's me.
weeks.
That's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you. I was like reading your bio, and I was like, "Oh my god, you are."
Wow. We've been following each other
Oh
around for years and
yes,
we've never just
we should.
connected.
I'm surprised we haven't connected
Well,
yet.
it's about time.
Yeah, seriously. All right. So I want to start off talking about Hair
Great.
because I love Hair. Of course, everyone
Yeah,
does.
same.
So that was your Broadway debut.
Yeah.
The great show to make a Broadway debut in.
Wild, right?
I feel like there were so many Broadway debuts in that show too. So what was it like stepping into the world of Hair, a show that's so deeply loved by so many as your Broadway debut with so many young actors?
Yeah, honestly, it was the most exciting thing and also sort of like an unreasonable bar to set for what to expect for the rest of my career. Because Hair started out as like what I auditioned for in the first place was a 3-night concert in Central Park. Like that's what the gig was. It was going to be like a week and a half of rehearsals, and then we're going to do a concert for 3 nights. And then the concert was successful, so they brought it back for like a full run at Shakespeare in the Park the following summer, and that was pretty successful. So they transferred us to Broadway, and then we did well there, and then they transferred all of us to the West End in London, which has never happened ever. So like these things just kept happening where like by the time we were on Broadway, we finally had to hire like offstage understudies and swings, and they were so wildly talented, and we were like, we never could have got cast now because these are people that auditioned for and booked a Broadway show. We auditioned for and booked a 3-night concert. Like that was the bar that we had to clear. And there were something like, I don't know, there must have been close to 20 Broadway debuts when we opened at the Hirschfeld, which was wild. I mean, it was like, it was one of those things where the show was a critical success, it was a commercial success, it was a popular success, and it was fun to do, and I met my best friends, and it's so rare that things line up. And the folks that had been around a few times by then, like the folks for whom it wasn't their Broadway debut, like Gavin Creel, the greatest man to ever be a person, and Will Swenson and Casey Levy, they were always telling us like, hey y'all, like this isn't how it is. Like you should know this is not what it's usually like. And we were all kind of like, oh sure. But it turns out that now that I've been around the block a couple times since then, that's really true. It was so uniquely special. And that show itself is so unique, right? Like there's nothing like Hair. It's sort of non-linear and it leaves so much open to interpretation, and we were so warmly received. I think the moment was right. It just everything was kind of right about it. And still my best friends to this day are people that I met doing that show.
Yeah. And Will Swenson, you guys didn't get along at first. Like, what was that like?
Well, we've
like,
talked about that publicly. That's right. I was like, what do you know? Yeah, we've talked about that before. Yeah, that's true. Well, here's what that was. And it's how I first met my now friend and co-star, Audrey McDonald. Co-star is the most generous way. It's an insane way of describing our roles in Gypsy. Will, yeah. So Will have been in a couple of Broadway shows. It was my Broadway debut. But it was Will's first big starring role. It was my first Broadway show at all. And I think both of us kind of felt like we had something to prove, or we were like trying to rise to the occasion in some way, that just our ways of managing the pressure that we were putting on ourselves were not particularly compatible. And so we didn't have that much to do with each other in the show, but like anytime we were just like both in the hair room together, like we weren't hostile or there was no animosity or anything. Like you could tell like I wasn't really his thing. And like, I'm generally like a pretty likable guy, but I can tell when I'm not someone's thing. That doesn't really bother me that much. I was like, all right, well, Will isn't really buying what I'm selling, and that's cool. And I think he had his own stuff, whatever. So years later, we reconnected doing Les Mis, and like by then we had both we were both married by then. We had both kind of settled down a little bit. We had both kind of done some other things. We actually got married a week apart from each other.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I think like pretty much the entire guest list from my wedding just like took a couple of days off and then went to this wedding while I was on my honeymoon. And in Les Mis, we were able to connect in a totally different way and like find each other as peers and as colleagues and as friends. And now it's like we've been friends for 15 years. I mean, it's one of the kind of longest running and most central relationships of my life. Will Swenson, what a sweet man.
That's such an iconic story. Like, it's
the mess, man. And his daughter Sally is about the same age as my son Asher, and like we've had play dates together, and it's amazing to like. One of the best experiences of my whole life is watching my kids play with my friends' kids. That is like a magic thing. And Asher and Sally get along great. We just had a big play date at Casey Levy's house a few weeks ago. Like it's the greatest thing.
Yeah, and it's so iconic. So speaking of iconic,
yeah,
it has such an iconic score.
Yes, popular songs.
Yes. Was there a particular number that you looked forward to each night?
I was just talking about this yesterday. A number that I looked forward to each night. Look, the whole thing is such a wild ride, My favorite to sing, I guess, was probably Let the Sun Shine, because like it felt like the one where you could really blow it out. I sang first tenor on that thing, which was a very ambitious thing for 23-year-old me or whatever. And I'm sure that was a fact of like me being in the park being like, I can do it. I don't know why I agreed to do it. I didn't realize I'd do 1,000 performances of it or whatever. And so I agreed to do the first tenor part, which is wildly high. And I would stand next to like Bryce Ryness, who is a real first tenor and can wail forever without any problem. But I just, it was the end of the show. It was the most emotional part of the show. And it was easy to wail on. But yesterday I was talking to Danny Burstein, my other co-star, LOL, from Gypsy. And we were talking about whatever, warming up, because I don't sing in Gypsy. Like my role in Gypsy, I don't have to sing a note. And what a breeze that is for the rest of my life. Like how much I can relax in my day-to-day life. Because in my Conviction, my like solo and Hair, I had this big, long, sustained high note. And for the entire time I was doing Hair, my entire life was built around that note. Like I would wake up in the morning, check the note, and then my whole day was about, what do I need to do to see if that note can be there at 8 o'clock, right? Like that was the whole year on Broadway. That was the whole 6 months in London is that note going to happen? And what do I need to do to get it to happen? And it always kind of did. It was always fine. I was young. I could do anything. But yeah, I guess that's my favorite and most challenging song.
That's like my favorite song in the whole show. I have a 32-hour Broadway playlist. The other day I was looking through like songs that I never skip.
Yeah.
And that's like top of the list. We'll never skip that.
Really?
Song. I'm obsessed with it.
Oh,
I don't know what's in it. There's like crack in it. Like, it's so good.
I was listening to I took my son to see the Wicked movie, which I think is perfect. And he hasn't seen the Broadway show and now won't listen to the Broadway show because he doesn't want the second half ruined for him. And I'm like, fair enough, whatever. So we were listening to the album in the car the other day, and we got to the Dr. Dillerman song, and he was like, let's skip this one. I was like, man, skip track's a skip track. Like, look, I think the Dr. Dillerman song is excellent musical theater. It's perfect storytelling, but like it's also not The Wizard and I. You know what I mean? It's not the song that an 8-year-old wants to listen to in the backseat. My very publicly stated dream is to play Dr. Dillerman on Broadway for 20 years, and so like I'm never gonna badmouth that song, but like I can see an 8-year-old being like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah. It's an acquired it's a good song, like definitely.
Sure.
But, like to sit through it every time listening to the album, it's like like you said, it's definitely a skip song. And there's so many I can think of in so many shows. Like it's just part of musical theater.
Yeah, I mean it's like the thing with Wicked specifically. I haven't been in Wicked, but like there's so many, like if you think of it as a pop album, right, there's so many singles. Like there's so many songs that are great singles, and so when you get to a song that leans more into like the storytelling, character development column, because even the pop songs, even the singles, right, like do incredible storytelling and character development. So when you get to one that like just kind of recalibrates in the other direction, it feels like a big departure, because you're leaning a little bit away from like a great song and more into like this is storytelling through music. And I can talk forever about that, but my son was like, no, I don't need to hear the goat, can we get back to the witches, please?
Yeah. That's why so many people record Popular as like Ariana Grande. It's so crazy. She manifested this whole thing for herself.
I know, it's wild.
Like I'll never forget when Popular came out, when she like re-recorded Popular like in like 2015, and everyone was crazy that like they know a song from Wicked now, and I'm like, guys, there's a whole album, please.
That I think the movie's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect.
I agree. Totally agree. All right, so let's get into Les Mis.
Cool.
I'm so excited to chat about this. This is where we originated Cobra Lou.
Oh my God, yes.
I still
have a hat somewhere that says Cobra Lou.
I need that.
Yeah.
That you should put that up for sale at the Broadway flea. That can go for millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's very limited edition.
So you co-created the well, let me start that.
It's cool.
You co-created the bromance that the theater industry knows as Cobra Lou.
Oh boy.
You went to a lot of Tony events with Ramin. Do you have any funny stories from any of these events?
Well, like Ramin doesn't have any friends, or like he didn't then, and so the whole reason I became involved with the vlog in the first place is because he came here and he was like, mate, they asked me to do this vlog, and I was like, what is your accent? And he was like, I don't know, I'm not funny or interesting. I was like, I know. He's like, can you be in this? Can you just like come and say funny stuff? I said, fine. It turned out he's actually very creative, obviously, whatever. So he got nominated for a Tony. I think absolutely appropriately. I thought, you know, and like like the Ramin of it all, especially when we talk about Les Mis, right? Like the Ramin, like the offstage antics and whatever gets a lot of airtime. And for what it's worth, I think he was an exceptionally good Jean Valjean, which I just think I would like to say for the record.
Yes.
Anyway, he got nominated for a Tony, which was right and good. And he just needed a date for stuff. And like he knew that I knew most of the people that would be at the stuff. So he invited me to the stuff. And it was always like he would kind of show up and like not know. Ramin's so good at showing up at a thing without any sense of what it is or what's expected of him and still somehow excelling at the thing. Like we have been to many like fancy dinners or galas or whatever together where he just like kind of he's like, I don't know, they told me to wear a suit and be at this address at 7. I don't know what this is, but just will kind of float effortlessly through the thing. Whereas if I'm invited to a thing, I'm agonizing for days, weeks about like, okay, so what am I going to wear? How early do I need to get there? What's the commute going to look like? If I'm there too early, where can I relax? If I'm there too late, what am I going to like? I anxiety over plan for these things, and he just under plans for everything that's ever happened to him. And because of it, and because of his good fortune, and because of his talent and likability, he just like floats on this wave of goodwill through the world. So no, I don't think I have any like specific great stories that I remember, but like we just like have had fun at some of the fanciest dinners in New York around the award season since then, and like that season and also subsequently. Like we still meet up every so often when he needs a date for a thing, or we'll hang out, and sometimes he'll be like, come over and hang out, and it's a surprise podcast, and like he just his way.
Yeah, you're like his personality hire.
Something like that.
Yeah. So going back to this funny friendship that you have, what is the funniest or most unexpected thing that's happened during performance or rehearsal, given the serious material that you were given?
I always found that with really serious or dark or dramatic material, the vibe off stage tends to be a little lighter, just because like you need some balance in your life, right? Like it's in a comedy or in a lighter thing, like the vibe can kind of stay relatively chill and light the whole time. But with like Les Mis, for example, it's so heavy. Everything you do on stage is so heavy. And I'm not the kind of actor who's like, you know, torturing myself off stage in order to do a performance or whatever. But I do think there is something like chemical about spending 3 hours a day frowning and talking about sad things in the dark, covered in rags and dirt, right? Like I think there is like an actual change to you if when you do this 8 times a week, months on end, right? I did something like 700 or 800 performances of that show, so like that does kind of build up. So all the nonsense with like he had that stupid mask that he used to wear all the time, and it happened to everybody. Like even after Ramin left, Alfie Boe came in, and Alfie used to like set up a Bluetooth speaker on his window and like sing classic rock songs out at the line of people who were going to see Hamilton next door. And they had no idea who he was. They were like, who's this man? I'm like, it's one of the best singers in the world.
Yeah, he was paying like good money for that.
Yeah, exactly. You've got $1,000 seat to a concert right now. But it was a lot of like, we were very well behaved. We didn't do any like nonsense on stage, right? But like, it was a lot of like surprises, and he loved to like a prank or to sneak around a corner. He had an enormous amount of energy for like just being a rascal. Like there was always just sneaking out of a corner and being like, and he's just constantly, he's like feral. At least he was, 10 years ago. He's settled down now. But then we did a lot of just goofing around and nonsense. Also, like I was a big part of my life, and the reason I'm still on Broadway is because I like Broadway Softball League, which we do in the summers, and I was the manager of our team. And Ramin, I think, had never like even heard of baseball or softball. Like he did not know anything about it, and he came every single week and would like hit a home run, not know where to run or like what happens next. He's just athletic and would hit the ball incredibly far and go, "What now?" And I'd have to kind of point where to go. It was nuts, but he's he's just game. That's something I really love about him. He's game.
He's good at everything, it
Yeah, it's
seems.
annoying.
And except for holding a club, because he hit you in the face with a
Oh, he
club.
sure did. I had to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
He hit me right here. It was yeah, that was a fight call. I think we were probably not taking our fight call seriously enough. We recalibrated after that incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You knew you had to be serious.
Yeah. Well, you know, like the whole point of fight call is for safety. So we're like,
Yeah.
we should probably do this seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna talk about She Loves Me.
But yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you certainly were there.
I did that one.
And I need to talk about your cabaret performance of She Loves Me, because it is absolutely incredible.
Wow, thanks.
It's so good. So I want to talk about you, the way you like interpret a song and act it out. And She Loves Me, each character's song reveals the deepest desires and vulnerabilities. How did you connect with your emotions and your outside experiences to really showcase yourself in the song?
So I covered that role at
Yeah.
Studio 54, but everyone on. So because Zach Levi at the time was a very healthy and normal person.
Yes.
Weird how things change over time. The song, you know, for me, I'm not a big like draw on your life experiences guy. Look, there's a million ways to act, and I find it actually to be one of the most kind of boring things to talk about with other actors. But in this context, I think it's great. My theory is that I think I stole this from Jerry Seinfeld or somebody who was like, there's if like action, you know, he's talking about making TV, but like if 8 o'clock is that island over there and we're over here on this beach, right? And if I want to take a speedboat and you want to take a kayak and he wants to swim and she wants to row, like I don't care at all. As long as I know that when it's time to go, we're all going to be in the island. Whatever you need to do to get there is fine. That's your business. I don't want to hear that. And so for me, but now I'm going to tell you about how I kayak. So like I'm my theory has always sort of been if I draw too much on my own life experiences, then I am thinking about my life instead of what's happening in the context of the show. That's my thing. It's lots of other actors have a different way of working. I think I let my life experiences color and inform the stuff that I'm doing, but like I really want to lean in to the story of the show, to the character, to the moment, right? So like instead of I'm sad because my cat died when I was in high school, which is true. Coco, R.I.P. Coco. You know, when I in a breakup scene, right? I could think about my cat and I could probably like squeeze out a tear or two or whatever. But like I would rather let Coco's death. Never talked about Coco on a podcast. I would rather let Coco's death inform what sadness means, right? And like fill the well that I'm going to draw from while thinking about the breakup in the show or whatever. So like, you know, with She Loves Me, it's that song especially is like, it's just joy. It's joy and it's solving a puzzle at the same time, which is like most good musical theater songs I think of as solving a puzzle. Like you've got a problem that you've got to solve, and it can be a good problem, but you've still got to solve it. And acting a song is my favorite thing to think about. It's my favorite thing to do. I've got a theory that everybody who loves Broadway loves a performer who is a great actor and a so-so singer, but very few people love a great singer who's a so-so actor. I think that they're just like, you know, I think we get tired of great singing more quickly than great acting. And so I always try to make sure that the acting is at the front of what I do, and that was my theory for sure with She Loves Me.
Yeah. I interned with a casting director a few months ago, and her the way she did her craft was like the people she hired, even if it was for a movie, the people she hired were theater actors, because theater actors know how to act.
Yeah, ideally. We try to.
And when she would watch somebody sing a song, it wasn't about their voice, it was about the way they were acting out the song, because in reality they're playing a character. They're not themselves and they're not singing.
Yeah.
They're playing a character. And
I really think there are very few people that can really like act and sing both at the same incredible level. I happen to be working with one of them right now, maybe a couple of them right now, to be honest. But like there are very, very few. And so I for me, I would always much rather put more chips in the acting column than the singing column.
Yeah. I was also gonna say, and when you're talking about solving a puzzle,
Yeah.
it's like Dr. Dilliman when he's
Yeah,
that's like the
exactly.
first thing that came to my
Yeah.
head. I'm like,
I'm gonna
that's
get. You'll see. Someday I'm gonna play that role. It's gonna be the greatest fulfillment.
no, and I will be in the front row opening night.
Right on. Thank you.
I'm gonna be waiting for this the rest of my life,
It's coming for
and
you.
it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel it.
Oh, it's inevitable. Leslie and I were talking about the other night that like our memorable Dillamond era is coming. Like it's gonna be maybe 5 or 10 years or whatever, but like it's coming for us.
Yeah, and even if it is like down the line, like
doesn't
your
matter.
craft just builds. It's just gonna get better and better.
Yeah, imagine how good we'll be then.
Yeah, seriously. You should start rehearsing now.
Yeah. Oh, we are. Backstage. That's what we do between scenes.
Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna talk about Studying the Park with George.
The best.
So,
my favorite musical.
Really?
I mean, not in any way related to my production or my experience doing it, but like as a written piece, yeah.
That's I like have never seen a production of that show.
It's gorgeous. It's perfect.
I want it to come back because I need to like.
Yeah, it'll come back. It always does.
Yeah, Sondheim for like Disney movies. They redo them for the next generation.
Yeah, which is good. They should be revisited.
I agree. I totally agree. All right. So you understudied 5 roles.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
What was your process to keep all these roles separate in your head?
Oh, just constant panic. Just a pretty solid constant state of panic. The nice part about that show was that it's especially the first act is sort of made up of little vignettes, and so there's really not a lot of time that multiple characters that I covered were on stage at the same time. There were only a couple of numbers where that was really an issue. So it was actually a little easier than it would have been in some other shows, but I was just scared every minute of my life for like 6 months. And I think I went on at the second or third preview. It was very, very early. I don't remember which, but I did have to go on at like the second or third preview for a role that I had exactly 0 rehearsal for. And I got the call at like noon or 1 that day. And it was the day of our photo call where they like, usually like most photos that you see of a production are photos of a show in progress, a preview in progress. But sometimes there are like certain setups that they want to get that, they would be obscuring the audience's view or mess up the show or whatever. So you can like pose and like pretend that you're doing the song or whatever. And so it was the day that we were doing that. And that photo call also turned into like an emergency put-in rehearsal for me. And I went on that night, and Jake Gyllenhaal like couldn't have been sweeter or more accommodating or more welcoming, and that was great. And it was great. I mean, like that show felt every day felt like I had won a contest or something. Like it was it's to me a perfect show performed by the best possible cast. It was just like magic. But yeah, as far as learning the tracks, it was just pretty much abject panic. That was my plan.
That's like one of the reasons I'm talented, but like I give everyone so much credit. Like if I had to do that, I think I would like cry.
Oh yeah, no, I did a lot. It was
fun. I'd be like, actually, I can't go on. I'm sick too.
Yeah, look, when you don't have a plan B, you figure it out. Like, oh, I have this job. I told them I'd do it. They pay me this money. Like, I better figure out a way to make it work. Like that's the thing with this gig is that a lot of times folks forget, like, it's also your job. So you can't just decide not to. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be like, it's too hard. Nope, not today. Like, I'm paying my bills. Like, I have to. I think by the time we did by the time we did Sunday, I had a kid. So I was like, I better figure it out. Like, this is how I'm paying for my life. Yeah. So I figured it out, but it's tense.
Yeah, I'd be terrified. I'm the most type B person too. Just like hearing that makes me want to be a type A person.
I am too, but my wife is a type A person, thank God. Somebody has to be.
No, I'm just like thinking about things scares me. So I'm like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like,
then you would love a life in the musical theater, because like that's one of the things that I do really like, is that like someone tells you where to stand and what to say and what to wear, and they cut my hair yesterday. I haven't had to make a decision about a haircut in years. I just show up and they're like, here's what it's going to be. And I go, okay. And then I love that. I have decision-making power, but I prefer to use it on like my family and my hobbies and whatever. Like work, just tell me where I'll do it good. Just tell me where to stand. It'll be fine.
But I do that in the real world too. Like I went to get I have brown nails, right? I went to get my nails done. I was like, what color do I do? And they picked out
Brown.
They picked out a color for me. Like when I
Yeah.
get my hair cut, they're like, "How much do you want to cut?" I'm like, "Just
Do
do whatever, do what you want. It'll grow back.
Yep.
Whatever you need.
Exactly
I'll
right.
be like, just practice on me."
Yeah, whatever you need to do, that's fine.
I can't think of doing things. It stresses me out. The thought of doing things stresses me out. Except when I'm working, I'm a very like, I know what I have to do and I'll
Right.
do it.
Right.
Sometimes
Those
it's a little-
Ramin, all those Ramin events actually stress me out too, because he's a very fashionable guy, and for those stuff, no one tells you what to wear.
yeah.
And I'm not a fashionable person or someone who likes thinking about fashion, and so I like that. That is to me one of the hardest parts of being an actor, is having to dress yourself for fancy things if you're not a big enough star to like get a stylist, which I'm not. So
Well,
like, you know,
yeah.
figuring it out is always a nightmare for me. Also, like I mean, woe is me, but like for male presenting actors, for male presenting people, the options when I started were very limited. You're going to wear a dark suit, right? Now, in a way that I think is really fantastic, the options are everything, right? Like people can wear everything, which I would say most folks find very liberating and exciting. And I just went to Gypsy's opening 2 weeks ago in the same dark suit that I've worn to pretty much every opening, because I know like it's fine. It's fine. It fits. It works. It's fine.
Yeah,
I think I got a new tie.
It also worked well with like the photo area.
Yeah, yeah.
The
That
videos
was
them
fine.
building it, it was gorgeous, and
Yeah, it was
I feel
pretty.
like it was so well done because it matched with every color.
Yeah, that was
And it
good.
made
They did a
everyone
good job. Yeah,
Yeah.
those things. Broadway.com is good at those things. They do a good job
I
with those things.
love Broadway.com. I love Paul and Torek. That is
Yeah.
like my dream guest is Paul and Torek or Seth Rudetsky.
You could get them. I'm sure you could
That's
get
what
them.
everyone says, but like I'm like have tears coming to my eyes. Seth Rudetsky is my like if I met Seth Rudetsky, I don't know what I would do. I don't want to meet him because I'll be like
Oh,
I'm
Seth's
gonna
a sweetheart.
cry.
He's a good
Like
guy.
that is like my like dream like star person to ever.
I feel very
know
confident that you could book Seth.
And I used to be like
That's
that with
sweet.
Harvey Firestein too. Like Harvey Firestein,
Oh, yeah.
I was obsessed with Harvey, and then I met Harvey, and I'm like, oh my god, we're friends now.
This is very niche. This is like, you know,
Very neat.
but I'm into
Well,
it.
I'm a Broadway girl through and through. Like this is my
Clearly.
life ever since little. Okay, so now let's talk about School of Rock.
Oh yeah, I was there.
I'm excited to talk about School of Rock because you and Alex Brightman have a very long history of friendship. You officiated
Yeah.
his wedding.
True.
How did this friendship begin, and how did he help you find your Dewey?
Ooh. Alex and I met, I think in 2010, somewhere around then. I think it was like right after Hair Broadway, or maybe it was even before Hair Broadway, honestly. It's been a long time. We met singing in the same concert. It was Broadway Sings Bruce Springsteen at the Duplex Piano Bar on Christopher Street, like in the West Village. I don't know if that is still a place anymore, but like back in the old days, there was like Joe's Pub was the fancy place to sing. They used to do a lot more Broadway stuff, and Joe's Pub was like the fancy place to perform. But then there was the Duplex, which was like they would do kind of like program stuff. It was on the third floor of this gay bar, and it was like a nice enough place, and you know, kind of dingy, but like, you know, whatever. And we were both asked to do Broadway Sings Bruce Springsteen, and neither of us were like big Bruce Springsteen fans, or really, I didn't know the song that I had been asked to sing, but we met that night and just sort of immediately were like, hey, this thing is kind of weird, right? And just hit it off that night. And so Brightman, we just became best friends, and like he introduced me to two of my other dearest friends, F. Michael Haney and Drew Gasparini. And so anyway, School of Rock happened, which was so exciting. I mean, like Alex and I had sort of both been working in the same way, doing, you know, like smaller parts and Broadway shows, and that had been great. He was in Matilda for a long time while I was in something else, and that was great. And so School of Rock happened, and as it was happening, we were all kind of like, I can't believe Brightman is going to be the lead in a show. And then I was one of his dates to opening night. So I went to opening night of School of Rock at the Winter Garden, and I was like, I couldn't, he was so incredible, right? He was so fantastic. And as I was watching it, I remember thinking, God, I could never do that. It's amazing what he's doing. I could never. He's so singularly great in this role. And the party was fun. We were also proud of him, and he got nominated for a Tony, and oh my God. And when School of Rock was first coming, I had been asked to come in and audition for the friend, for Ned. And I think I did audition, and I didn't get it, or something else came up. I don't remember what happened, but I didn't get it. And, you know, it kind of every so often, as they were looking for other Deweys, they would call me and ask me to come in. And I didn't play guitar. But, you know, I was kind of funny, and it was the same director as Les Mis, so he knew me and knew that I was kind of funny. And so I would come in from time to time. Brightman left. I mean, we never overlapped there.
Mhm.
So he left and was replaced by a guy, Eric Peterson, who I had done Spelling Bee with on the national tour. And then Eric left, and he was replaced by Justin Collette, who is the current Beetlejuice on tour. There's just this little community of us. And so I eventually went in, I had a good audition, and the School of Rock folks were like, listen, we need you to learn guitar. And I was like, then I need you to teach me guitar. They were like, how about this? There's going to be like 2 or 3 months between this callback and your final callback. If you can get a few lessons under your belt and just like show us that you're game and you can sort of figure it out, then we'll get you the rest of the way there. So, okay. So I had gone off to San Francisco to do a show. And while I was there, I got like a Groupon for guitar lessons and started figuring it out. So I could come back to the final callback and show them that like I was willing to invest some time and some energy in learning it. And I got it, and I did it, and that was great. And then I learned it. My Dewey is nothing like his, in the same way that my Beetlejuice. I'm sure we'll talk about Beetlejuice, but in the same way that like my Beetlejuice is nothing like his. We're funny in completely different ways, and so my Dewey is like a little older and a little slower, and much taller, and like a little bigger, and like, you know. So it was just different. And then Brightman had the absolute nerve to come the very first performance I had as Dewey. He came the first time, which is the rudest thing that a person can do. And was very generous and complimentary and whatever. But it was, he didn't give me any tips, I guess is my point. He didn't give me any tips. He gave me some warnings. He was like, you're going to feel terrible. It's incredibly hard. And it's like wildly hard. And the thing that people, like Dewey is an incredibly tough gig. Like, I think that's not surprising to hear. But the thing that no one really notices is that because the show takes place over a school year, it gets, the costume design is designed to reflect that it gets colder over the course of the year, as it would in the Northeast where this show is set. And so as the show gets harder and more physical and more acrobatic, you add layers. Like you start off in just like a shirt with a loose tie, and then there's a sweater vest, and then there's a sweater vest and a blazer, and then there's also a scarf, and there's also an overcoat, and it just builds and builds and builds until you're like dressed for winter and also running and jumping and screaming with kids, which is, a lot. So I think that was his big warning. He's like, hey, look out for all those layers. You're going to be hot as hell. Make sure you drink a lot of water. I'm like, okay. He was right.
Yeah.
He was right. Oh, you know what else he taught me, actually? This was during Beetlejuice, but this is a really good tip. He was like, you know what I like to do? Because it's hard with a really physical role to figure out when and how and what to eat. He was like, his trick was like, he ate a giant breakfast and then just like little snacks, which was so smart, because then you get like have enough fuel, but you don't feel full or heavy or whatever. And so like, that's how I would always pace a Beetlejuice day, is like giant breakfast and then like a little nuts or a little fruit or whatever, like a little squirrel all day.
Wait, that's so weird you say that, because this is so weird, but when I go see shows and I'm sitting there, I don't want to feel full.
Yeah.
And I'll do that when I like go see a show. Like I'll like I won't get dinner, but which is annoying for my friends because they're like, let's get dinner. I'm like, no, I need to be there and focus the whole time. So I'm like, we're not going to get dinner. We'll get food after. We'll go to a diner, like a 24-hour diner after. So much more fun. And I'll bring a snack to the show. And then I'm like not full during the show. So like sometimes I went to the invited dress of the Heart of Rock and Roll.
Yeah, which I loved.
Oh my God, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was like, that choreography is my favorite choreography I've ever seen on Broadway.
Lauren Lataro, one of the greats.
Yes. My the company I'm interning right now represents her.
She's so great.
So I whip out like fruit snacks and an apple, like and I'm quiet. Like I won't like I'm not distracting anyone.
Right.
And I'll just like snack in the middle because I'm like hungry, but I don't want to feel full. Very important.
That's the
Very
way.
important for an
This is the
audience
trick.
member as
This is the
well.
trick. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you worked with kids,
Mhm.
and your character, Dewey, was filled with energy and passion. How did you tap into that youthfulness energy while still bringing your own personal touch and difference into a character that's been played by all different actors?
Yeah. I mean, understudying is a tricky thing because, like there are certain things that you've got to stay consistent on, right? Like the lines need to be the lines, the blocking needs to be the blocking, especially in a show like School of Rock where there's a ton of moving pieces and there's giant scenery flying around. Like if you're not on your mark, you could get hurt or you could hurt somebody else. And so it's always a balance of like maintaining the consistency of the show while also finding your own version of it, right? And like the way that the role was conceived, because Alex built it, is that like it was built to be sort of like feral almost. Like the energy level is so high the entire time. And my energy is just not frenetic in the same way that his is, right? So my energy needed to be a little bit, I need to kind of find my version. My version ended up being a little bit more cerebral almost. like I was a little bit more I don't know. It was like a thinkier Dewey or something. I know that my show was slower. Like everyone was kind of mad at me because like it was always 5 minutes longer than it was if somebody else was on. Because I was like, I would take my time and like figure my way. So it's the energy. You've really got to pace yourself with that show around the musical numbers because they're so big, right? Like you're in the band and all that stuff is so stick it to the man. Like all those numbers are so intense and it requires so much like actual running and leaping off of stuff. And playing guitar, which I was a brand new guitar player. Luckily there were, I think 13 kids who were just like, kids have zero tolerance for like anyone's BS. So like those kids are showing up. You know what I mean? Like the kids are there, they're doing the job. And if you can't match them, then you're just gonna get run over. So that was the thing. It was like look to the kids, do what the kids are doing, follow the kids, inspire the kids. So that was always the job. And like I put in a feel like I would do like a dab, right? Which like when I was doing the show in 17, 18 or whatever it was, 19, like a dab was the funniest thing you could possibly do to an 11-year-old. Like they thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened in their lives. So I was like, great. Okay. So I found my little bits with the kids that made them excited to do the show with me. And it made me excited to do the show with them. And we found our own version of things.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Stupid. I still don't really know why it's funny, but they loved it.
I loved it at that age. I when School of Rock opened, I think I was the same age as the kids because one of them went to school with one of my friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like I feel like I really grew up with the show in a weird way.
I'm still friends with some of those kids. They're the best kids.
Yeah, and then when they grow up and you see them, like same thing with Gaten. When Gaten is his name is, and now he's Gaten Maserati, everyone knows his name.
Yeah, I know it's weird.
It's crazy.
It's weird that he's famous. I'm happy for him.
So we're gonna skip Beautiful and Alice for time's sake, but those are two of my favorite shows.
I was in those ones. That's okay.
Yes, I saw Alice 2 times front row, and
beautiful show.
Like, oh my god, this is the best thing that's ever happened to society. And then I bought the book and I read it and there were pictures in it and I was terrified of the pictures.
Oh.
Because they were like graphic and I was like, okay, no more books. I never read. I'm like, no more book for me.
Okay, but we're skipping it. We're skipping it.
That's my sign.
Okay, great.
So let's talk about Beetlejuice.
Okay.
So this was your first time like actually like doing a show with Alex.
Right. True.
And there was so Beetlejuice has a very unique sound. How did you find the voice and how did you keep your voice healthy while making that sound?
Yeah. So Alex has a thing. There's some like anatomical thing with him. I don't understand what it is exactly, but like he's done lots of interviews talking. You can find out if people want to find out. There's some anatomical thing that he has going on with his vocal cords and his like laryngeal folds or something. I don't know. Something's happening in there that makes it effortless and healthy, and he can do it. And he worked on it very hard, and that's great. I don't think I have that, whatever that thing is. I don't think I can do that thing. But I do have what I know is that I have a pretty flexible voice that can do a lot of things. And my advice from the creative team, from Alex Timbers and from everybody else, was like, listen, you don't have to do Alex's voice, but like he just has to be a zombie, a thousands of years old zombie. So like whatever that means to you, figure out what that is. So I started playing with voices. Will Blum, who was the standby from before COVID and was still on with the show when I joined in, I heard him do it. He didn't do Alex's voice at all. He kind of had his own completely different thing, which like really worked for his Beetlejuice. So all right, let me figure out what this is. And so I experimented a lot, and I've always liked. I've always had like a kind of a fascination with like the Will Arnett, Alec Baldwin, like gruff voice guys, right? And so like these guys that'll like really get in here, and I was like, okay, so maybe there's something there. And so I was experimenting with that because that's never felt painful. I know my voice well enough to know what hurts and what's healthy and what's going to work for me. And what I figured out eventually was just like if it's got a little bit of that, it doesn't have to sit there. Like it can, if you establish that this is the thing, it's perfectly fine to walk away from it for a minute as long as you come back. You know what I mean? Like once I figured that out, I could map my way through the show in a way that was healthy and sustainable. Because man, Dewey's famously like all had vocal problems. Like every Dewey broke their voice at some point. A lot of Beetlejuice vocal problems. So like I needed to develop, because this isn't actually grit. Like I'm not doing that. It's this. It's just like it just sits in a different part. I could do this all day. This is no problem. And so singing is a little bit different. You got to figure out how to do that. But I've got a microphone 4 inches from my mouth. So like I don't have to actually manufacture that much sound. I found a way that I can walk away from it and I can talk here for as long as I want, as long as I come back to this. So that ended up being fine. I figured out a way to kind of do it in a way that made sense.
Yeah. I saw the show twice again. And for some reason I've seen all your shows multiple times.
It's because I do good shows. That's why.
No, seriously. And it's just so crazy how every person who's ever done any of those roles are so different in the roles.
Yeah.
But come back to the same story.
Yeah, it's wild. I think actually the Beetlejuice like fraternity is actually fairly small. I think there's only like 5 or 6 people like in the world who have ever played that part, which is cool. At least that was true. I don't know, a couple years ago. I'm sure it's a lot more now. But
were you in the show with Sean McManus?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. He was my first guest ever on the pod.
Oh, I love Sean.
My first guest. He's the best. I met him at an event, and we started talking, and I was like, "You're coming on."
Sean is a sweetheart. Yeah, Sean came in as a vacation swing on Broadway, and then he did the tour, and I took over the role on the tour for a while. And so, yeah, I've known Sean forever.
Yeah, and they just flew him out. He's still a vacation.
Yeah, he's always bopping back into that thing.
Crazy. Yeah. So you were a standby for Beetlejuice, Adam, and Charles. Who'd you go on for the most, and how did you keep those roles separate in your head?
Oh, I think I definitely did Beetlejuice the most. How did I keep him separate in my head? I mean, I sort of prioritized learning them. I didn't learn them all at the same time. That was really the trick, because I learned them separately. And once I felt like I knew one, then I could like put it in my brain's file folder and move on to the next. Because there was another Beetlejuice cover in the building, I learned Adam first. And I did Adam first, and so like that was fine. Charles is a really fun role and one that I love, but it's actually not a ton of like learning. Like he doesn't have any big musical numbers. Like that's an easier role to learn as far as like the actual book learning of it. And Beetlejuice is a big part and was scary, especially the choreography. I'm a really slow learner with choreography. It takes a long time for me to really get it in my body. And so once I knew it was time to really sit down and hunker down and learn the Beetlejuice role, by then I had been at the show for long enough that I'm a pretty good learner of lines and music, like just passively, just hearing it in the building will usually put it into my head pretty well. But learning the choreography, I worked it hard for a long time. But I also, there was a terrific actor named Nevada Riley who was also new to the show when I joined the show, and she was a Lydia cover. And she's a fantastic dancer, and so we learned it together, and she would very sweetly, she was like, let's review together, and it was just for me, but she was like incredibly gracious with her time, patience.
All right, so now we have to talk about Gypsy in our final moments.
Yes, I'm in that.
So, out of all of your roles, even though they're like the same roles, but like at different times, which character do you resonate with the most, and who is the hardest to really come to?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. Who do I resonate with the most? I'll tell you, like Goldstone's really fun. Have you seen the show? It doesn't matter. I'm not mad if you haven't.
I've seen other productions. I'm coming though.
So Goldstone's funny because like I don't speak or sing as Goldstone, right? But there's this whole musical number about and to and for me. And so I show up into this scene and like this whole number is done like at me. And there's this thing of like Audra is singing full out 6 inches from my face, while Danny Burstein, one of the greatest musical theater actors in history, is giving me a back massage. While like we have these Jordan Tyson, who's like an unbelievable talent, is singing in my other ear. And 4 of the best dancers on Broadway are like dancing and twirling and leaping and sliding all around me. And my job is to just watch. Like that's the gig. And so every night I just put on a funny wig and I get to watch this happen, and it's so wild. And I usually allow myself like the briefest of moments to step out of my body and be like, look what you're doing. This is nuts. So that's pretty fun. I mean, like Cigar is fun because I get to do jokes and gags and bits and stuff. Like Leslie, Margarita, and I have most of our material together during that part, and we just scream at each other and try to make the audience laugh, which is really fun and really satisfying. Bourgeron-Cochon is silly. I wear a fake mustache. Like, you know, it's as far as challenge, it like none of it is the heaviest lift of my life or whatever, but like I feel very lucky to be a small part of what I think is like a monumentally good production. Like the fact that I managed to get my name associated with this thing is quite the coup, if you ask me.
It's such an iconic cast. Like
unbelievable.
Joy Woods is like, I've seen every show she's been in. She's also an actor that I've followed for like just
she's unbelievable.
Like to see musicals. Incredible. And I just can't wait to see the way she steps into this role. Also, Jordan Tyson in The Notebook was, oh my god.
I didn't get to see it, which I'm gonna kick myself for the rest of my life, because like
2 on stage together again is like making my theater hurt so happy.
We joke. So my dressing room, I don't know how I got in this situation, but like my dressing room is in the same little area as, there's like 2 big towers in the Majestic Theater. There's like one where the whole ensemble and all the kids and all the covers are, and then there's another that's the principal tower. And it's like Audra and Danny and the strippers and Joy and Jordan and us 4 character men who like do not belong there, but we're there anyway. And so we're in this same like little area with Joy and Jordan and the 3 like gotta get a gimmick performers. And Joy and Jordan and I started a bit fully. I started this is not their bit, where I'm like, isn't it great that the 3 of us have come from The Notebook playing the same character, and now we're here at Gypsy? And so Jordan calls me Decrepit Alley, that like they were young Alley, medium Alley, and I was Decrepit Alley. And I just sing that song from TikTok all day. I just like, I want to run away. And Joy doesn't think it's that funny, but Jordan at least gives me a pity laugh, which is everything I need.
Jordan's song in The Notebook is like also like a song I will never skip. It's just so incredible.
I've heard it every day of my life on TikTok for like a solid 3 months.
Yeah. Is there any part of the production that you think people should keep their eyes peeled for?
Just watch everything Audra does. Like honestly, I think all the performances are astonishing. I think it's almost unparalleled in its quality, right? But like the thing that Audra is doing feels like seismic to me. It feels groundbreaking. And like this is a person I've seen perform in other stuff. Like whatever, she's obviously a very talented person. Like I'm not going to make any headlines with that, but like I think what she is doing here is unlike anything I have ever seen. And the honesty and rawness that is informing every single moment she plays is insane. I just think like watching her is an unparalleled experience. I've never felt anything like that.
Yeah, it's just so crazy that we live in a world and a time where we get to see Audra play.
Mama Rose.
Rose, yeah, I don't know.
Can you imagine? It's wild. Like, I get to see it every night. It's like, I can't believe it. Like at the stage where people are like, it's such a great show, and I'm like, I know, right? Like I can't believe that they let me hang around there. It's nuts.
So we're gonna go into our rapid fire round.
Great.
I have 10 questions. Answer as quick as you want.
Okay.
Yeah, just silly. What's your favorite audition song?
Oh, Tonight at 8 from She Loves Me.
Oh, good one.
I think I've booked like 3 or 4 Broadway shows with that song. It's like that was my song for a long time.
That's your money spot, like when people shoot the basketball at the same spot.
That's it.
What's your go-to snack when you're backstage during a show?
I usually have like a thing of cashews. I like to have like a thing of cashews. Let's see, backstage. Usually cashews. I don't want to eat anything that's gonna like get me too stinky. I don't want to like do too sugary because like I like to go to bed right after the show. Like I'm not a 24-hour diner person after the show because my kids are gonna be up at 6. So like I sprint to bed after a show. So yeah, usually like some cashews.
Yeah, I'm like a 4-hour sleep, get up, and it's the next day. Like,
yeah, I can't roll with that.
And my whole thing now is I'm in my early 20s. I need to act like I'm like go to sleep at 1, wake up at 6, start your day. I'm like, okay.
I run to bed after a show.
Yeah. What's your dream role that you can never see yourself playing?
That I could never see myself playing? Oh man. Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, interesting.
I think like vocally, like in a complete out of context concert version, where like also the audience has to wear a blindfold and not know anything about who the singers are, I think I could kill it.
That could be a great idea.
I mean, like I'm wrong for it in almost every context, but it's like musically, I just would love to take a pass at it sometime.
Somebody should produce a blindfolded Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Andrew.
right. Yeah.
It could be incredible. If you could revive any show and start it, what would it be, and what role are you playing?
I'm hopeful that like my pre-existing dream role that I could get cast in, I think. I'm hopeful that I will get a pass at a Jean Valjean someday.
Okay.
I think I have this theory that singers sing like the thing that taught them to love music. And the thing that taught me to love music was like 80s and 90s musical theater. And so I think that I am like my voice is built to sing a Jean Valjean. And I'm still, I'm only 40. Like I'm hopeful that it's coming for me one of these days. So yeah, I guess that's my answer.
It's a great answer. What's your go-to warm-up song?
I don't really warm up. I'm a bad actor. I mean, honestly, like if I do need to warm up, like for a School of Rock or Beetlejuice or something, like for like a big sing, it's usually just vocalizing, or like I'll put on some. It depends on the vibe of the show. Like I like if I have my own dressing room, I like to put on some music and just like lightly sing along. And I've noticed that like my playlists are very different for matinees than for evening shows. Like for matinees, it'll usually go a little harder because I need to get myself somewhere. Where an evening show, I'm like happy to kind of chill my way into it a little bit more. But yeah, it's just like light singing along with whatever Spotify gives me, or just vocalizing.
Yeah. This is so not about this, but I took a directing class. I went to the University of Maryland, and basically I would commute back and forth because I work
right
in New York. So basically I had a directing teacher, and he was like, we were doing an assignment. We got to pick one show and do a scene. And obviously you had to like read the plays, and it's like, I don't have time for this. So I picked a play I already knew. I did Almost Me because I did in high school and like picked a scene. And he's like, make a playlist about your show. So I won the playlist contest.
Yeah, let a Noah Khan, I'm imagining.
Yes.
Yeah, see?
So much Noah Khan and so much Irving Berlin.
Oh, sure. Okay, yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Just because
Americana.
It's just like a whimsical like sound to it. But yes, a lot of folk and a lot of like old school Broadway.
Yeah, like Oompa Oompa March stuff. Yeah.
Like extreme, like
yeah.
Who knows? Cool. What's a musical theater song that's always stuck in your head?
Right now, it's that song from The Notebook. I don't, to be honest, I don't recreationally listen to a lot of musical theater. I feel like I like work to be work and home to be home. And like the thing, I wish that I was a different kind of singer. Like I wish I could trade voices with somebody with like a cooler voice than me or whatever. But like it's very rare to me that I'll find a musical theater score that I want to listen to like in the car or in the shower or whatever. The one that I come back to more than any other is this show called Passing Strange, which is, I mean, to me, one of the best musical theater scores ever. And one of my favorite performance experiences was seeing that show. And so I think that's probably, starring the now very famous Coleman Domingo, that is probably the musical theater music that I listen to the most outside of school, I was about to say. Outside of school. Yeah.
I will always listen to Spelling Bee. I don't know why.
So great.
I saw Spelling Bee at the Kennedy Center a few months ago, and the whole original cast was in the audience at the same time.
Oh, so cool.
I was freaking out. But that Pandemonium, I say this every podcast when I answer this question. It is stuck in my head at all hours of the day. I don't know why.
When I did that show, I had that problem too.
It's so catchy.
I released it, but
It is so catchy.
My girl Nina White was in that. I love Nina White.
Yes. Oh my God.
Isn't she great?
Incredible. Her I Love You song was so good. Like the best I Love You song I've ever heard ever.
We're doing the show that you gotta look out for called The Queen of Versailles. That's going to be coming to Broadway next season. She's outrageously good in that. It's going to change lives.
I saw her in Kimberly, and like your eyes just get drawn to her. There's something about her where you're like,
good.
Oh my God, yes, like triple threat. Amazing. Who is the coolest person you've ever met backstage?
Coolest person. You know what's wild is I haven't met a lot of folks. I mean, during Hair, Aretha Franklin came to the show, and like because her drummer and her bass player both played in our band, and she came to the show, and we were told after the show that like she would love to invite us all to a reception at, I think it was the Plaza Hotel. And so we were like, I mean, okay. And so we all went there, and I remember I got there and she was reclined on this like day bed, this like settee. She was like reclined. There was drinks and snacks and stuff that she had gotten for us. She was reclined. And I went over to introduce myself, and she gave me like the horizontal hand with palm down. And I was like, I didn't know what to do with it. So I sort of just like held it for a second. And I just remember thinking like, that's the most status that I've ever seen anybody hold. Like I've met presidents, like that's the most movie stars, but like I've never seen anyone carry themselves with as much status as she did in that moment. And like, I don't get starstruck easily or whatever, but like, and I wasn't particularly starstruck, but I was in awe of the way that this person carried themselves. And just like the energy that they were able to command. You know what's cool? Even before I was in the business, I was in college. I'm a big John Mayer fan. I don't care. I like John Mayer. And I saw him in a hotel lobby once when I was like a senior in college. And I was so nervous and excited to see him. And I went up and I introduced myself. And I came up and I was like, hey, I'm such a fan of yours. I think you're so great, or whatever I said. And he said, oh, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. My name is John. And I was like, oh, that's good. I was like, if anybody is ever a fan of mine, I'm stealing that. Because it instantly like puts you on an equal footing. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I know who you are. I know what your name is. And some people who have told the story to find it kind of douchey. I don't find it douchey at all. I found it disarming, and I found it like equalized our status in that interaction to just like have a human introduction with me. And so anytime this has ever happened to me in the world where like I get stopped, and it's rare. I mean, like I can very easily walk down the street, but like if I get stopped, I always, hey, I'm Andrew, because it gets me to learn your name and it gets us to introduce each other. Like we were not in this kind of like unusual interaction. It's the coolest thing that I've ever seen a celebrity do. It modeled for me the way to interact with a fan forever.
Yeah. Jordan Fisher does that. I saw, when you go to the stage show and you like introduce her. I saw it on TikTok like yesterday. Actually, it's so weird that you said that. But when somebody was like talking to him, he would go, "Hi, I'm Jordan. What's your name?" Yeah,
it works every time.
Yeah, it's a very personal introduction into somebody else's lives, even if you like you're never gonna see this person again. It's just it's so easy to like make someone feel special.
Exactly.
And I feel like at a stage door, you never know what people are going through.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, someone cares about me and how I'm feeling.
Yeah. And I mean, look, at a stage door, like I tend to kind of breeze through, like I chat with everybody, whatever, but like if I get into a conversation with somebody, then I will always make sure I get their name and like where they're from, and I want to know a little bit about you. And I you know, usually if there's 100 people and I've got a train to catch, and like I said, I am running to bed, I will not do that with every single person, but like especially out in the world, if I'm at Starbucks or whatever and someone's like, oh my god, I loved you in Beetlejuice, oh cool, that's so, thank you, what's your name? I'm Andrew. Like that instantly just makes everybody feel a little bit more normal about that interaction.
Yeah, I took my friend just watched Glee for the first
Oh
time
boy.
like last week, like finished it. So I took her as a reward. I took her to see Maybe Happy Ending to see Darren Criss.
So
and
great.
She met Darren Criss and like he stood with everyone and had a conversation. And I was like, this is incredible. Like,
yeah, he's one of those guys that'll just kill 4 hours at the stage show. It's amazing.
Yeah. And we waited outside for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Absolutely freezing.
He's a sweet guy.
She was crying, and I was like, "You just watched Glee for the first time." Like I've been watching Glee since it was on TV.
Yeah, you'll be alright.
Yeah, it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. If you could switch roles with anyone in any show you've done, what would it be, and what role would you play?
In any show I've done, I guess it's boring, but Jean Valjean. That was already my dream role. I'd say probably that one.
Yeah, I expected you to say that.
Yeah.
What is the hardest song you've ever had to sing on stage?
Maybe You're in the Band, just because it's really high, it's long, there's guitar playing in it, and there's a lot of running and jumping, so you can never catch your breath. And by that point, you're wearing a couple of sweaters. Like it's probably You're in the Band. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sweaty one.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you could sing a duet with anyone in the world, who would it be, and what song are you singing?
My son. It'd be my son. He's got this. He's gonna turn 9 next week. He's got the most beautiful voice, and he has no interest at all in singing in public. And like that's cool. I'm not gonna push it on him. I don't care. But he does love to sing, and I'll hear him like in the car or in his room or whatever. And he's got the most beautiful, perfect voice. And I don't think he would ever agree to sing with me in public, but it would be the happiest I could imagine being. And what song would we sing? I don't know. I got to think about that.
Definitely not something bad.
No, something bad. No, he would want. Maybe he would like let us do like popular or what is his feelings? Like one of the duets. You know.
That would be really great.
Yeah, he doesn't know I would say For Good, but he hasn't heard that song yet because he refuses to find out what's going to happen.
He's only seen part one.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You have to reward him with like if he sings What Is This Feeling, you get to see part 2 a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we'll see. I would love. I don't think he ever would, but I would love him to sing with me sometime. Maybe someday. We'll see.
All right. Thank you so much for letting me go through your resume with you. And for
fun.
time to chat. You can see Andrew at the Majestic in Gypsy. Highly recommend. I'm so excited to come see it.
Yeah, come on through.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.